Goal: to cure, period. At the forefront, Cure stands as a healthcare leader, fostering genuine collaboration and innovation that fuels dreams into reality.
There's such a huge opportunity here, and I want to be a part of that. It's about not only helping
Welcome to Cure, an innovation campus. The goal really is simple. It's to cure, period.
When something happens to your health, not a whole lot else matters. This entire building on Park Avenue, 320,000 square feet, is all dedicated towards advancing healthcare and improving health equity.
Our mission is straightforward. Collaborate with the brightest healthcare minds, entrepreneurs, and innovative leaders towards a collective goal: to cure, period. At the forefront, Cure stands as a healthcare leader, fostering genuine collaboration and innovation that fuels dreams into reality.
there's such a huge opportunity here, and I want to be a part of that. It's about not only helping to create new cures and new therapies, but also to help New York.
We're here to talk about the power of X and about what opportunities this has in store for us.
Every day has been packed full of science. Every day has been packed full of collaboration and connections and great solutions for all of the various sustainable development goals of the UN. It's amazing.
With more than tens of thousands of prominent healthcare leaders, Nobel laureates, entrepreneurs, and innovators, Cure is the gateway to fostering crucial conversations and creating strategic partnerships that spark innovative ideas driving healthcare forward.
First of all, I think the vision is really what's exciting. Getting great ideas, trying to translate it and implement into real cures.
Well, the key ingredients are great science, and New York City certainly has great biomedical science, which is the starting point.
Academic medical centers cannot do this themselves. The best things for our patients is to collaborate.
Leading the conversation is our weekly Tuesday Talks series, hosted by Cure CEO Seema Kumar.
Welcome to Tuesday Talks. We want to convene the people around the community around important topics that are top of mind in healthcare.
Giving you access to the innovative entrepreneurs, healthcare leaders, and companies creating cutting-edge healthcare treatments, new diagnostics, and medical devices that are enhancing our overarching mission to cure what ails us.
Insulin pumps already exist, so there needs to be a third technology. We need smart software to make decisions to dose insulin, which lowers blood sugar, and glucagon, which raises it.
We brought together hundreds of premier events, ranging from the inauguration of the UN Science Summit to hosting luminary dinners for the Clinton Global Initiative. We didn't just talk about innovation, we put it in action.
We're excited to launch the Cure Exchange here at BIO 2023 at the International Convention.
And launched the first ever Cure Exchange Challenge, Health AI for Good. With our partner MIT Solve, we brought in more than 100 groundbreaking AI healthcare ideas that can accelerate better health outcomes for patients. The response surpassed expectations, and our winners will join the collaboration residency. We're just getting started and even more driven to push forward in our quest to cure what ails us most. More events, more leaders, more partners, and more innovation. The future of healthcare is Cure. Period.
So So today we have with us George Vredenberg, and he's visiting here at CURE, and there's a Global Brain Coalition meeting going on as part of the UN General Assembly Science Summit. George, welcome to CURE.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Seema.
It's great to see you and, continue to see you really lead the fight against Alzheimer's.
Well, look, you have created a magnificent place here at CURE. Over the last few years when we first met, this was a gleam in your eye, and you've turned into a reality. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of CURE, you have been on this mission, and the organization really is called Us Against Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's disease, it seems like it's something that is a tsunami that is going to hit us as we age. Pretty much everybody is going to get Alzheimer's, it seems like. What are we doing against it? Why did you start this organization?
I started this organization in 2010 because 3 generations of my family have been affected by the disease. I'm a lawyer by background and training. I was in industry, but I retired in 2001 and I decided to devote the rest of my life to trying to cure this disease.
Is it possible?
Of course it's possible. Not every disease is cured, but every disease is curable.
That's right. So where are we in the fight against Alzheimer's, in the Us Against Alzheimer's? Where is Alzheimer's and where are we?
This disease was identified in 1906 by Dr. Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And the first disease-modifying drug was adopted, or at least embraced by the FDA in 2023, the second in 2024. But these drugs have an effect of delaying the progression, not a cure, doesn't stop it, doesn't prevent it, but delays it. Now, for patients, that's important because they want more time with their families.
And also what's important is that unlike other things where, you're just addressing the symptoms, at least they are doing some level of disease modification.
And that gives us confidence that, in fact, maybe if we go earlier in the course of the disease, before you even have symptoms of dementia, but when we know you have the pathology of the disease and we start slowing down the disease earlier in its course, maybe we can prevent it, prevent symptoms, or have a longer period of time when people are at the very earliest stage and functional stage of the disease.
Now, isn't that hard though? Because when you don't have the symptoms and you feel healthy, how do you kind of cope with taking a medicine that you don't need? How do you know you have the pathology?
Let me ask you, do you get mammograms, checkups? Do you get cancer checkups?
Yes.
Do you wait until you get symptoms of cancer and you're being to? No.
No.
So you want you want to find these diseases at stage 1, not at stage 4.
Yes.
That's what we want to do. And why do we take medicines today? For heart disease, for obesity, for diabetes, for a variety of conditions. Why do we take it? Because we're persuaded that catching something early and preventing its symptomatology is beneficial. And it's proven to be so for other diseases.
So where do we stand with diagnostics? Because with a mammogram, you can kind of have a yearly or so monitoring to see where you are and pick it up or in the early stages. What about in Alzheimer's? How do you diagnose the early stages of Alzheimer's?
Right now, the way to do that is through an expensive PET scan, which is at scale very difficult to do. It's costly, and the PET scan equipment is still pretty scarce, and even in the United States. But what we now have are blood tests. We now have a blood test that is equal in quality to PET scans. And Mount Sinai just announced this week, for the first time, that we have a major health system in this country that will use blood tests on a regular basis in primary care. That's where we're going. And in the next year or two, you will see the health systems adjust to having actually, when you go in and you get your blood taken for a wide variety of reasons, one of the tests that you will have read out is, do you have the pathology of Alzheimer's?
So tell me a little bit about what is the blood test picking up? How is it picking it up? What's the science behind it?
The science is its ability to detect amyloid or tau in your bloodstream and the analytes of that particular set of toxic proteins. Now, that is right now what we think are the underlying toxic proteins associated with pathology of Alzheimer's. What we're beginning to learn, because most of the science has been done in white Caucasians, is that as we begin to detect this disease in blacks and Latinos, they don't have the same mix of amyloid and tau as white Caucasians. So we're going to have to adjust either the cutoff points in our blood tests or understand the fact that those particular populations may have a mix of other kinds of dementia at the same time as Alzheimer's. So we're going to be learning over the course of the next few years how good and sensitive and accurate are these blood tests in a wide variety of mixed populations.
That's interesting. Are there gender differences in the pathology?
There are minor gender differences. You seem to have more tau pathology than amyloid. We have more amyloid than tau, but that's only in a pure Alzheimer's case. But vascular dementia is something that we find in lower income populations because they have social determinants of health, which provide some sort of heart and diabetes and obesity impacts, which affects your heart, and the heart flow, the blood flow through your brain disrupts the vasculature of the brain and creates dementia in that way. So we're finding as we go down this path, and that's why this is just the beginning, that we're seeing differential populations. Last week I was in Nairobi, Kenya. There seemed to be virtually no amyloid toxins in Africans.
In Africans with Alzheimer's.
Africans with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Exactly. And so what we're
so what's the underlying pathology there?
It seems to be vascular dementia.
Wow.
But in fact, we're going to learn as we met with 250 African brain researchers last week who are just themselves getting financed to do studies in African populations. We're going to learn a lot about African genetic diversity and African pathology diversity.
That's great because, you know, at the end of the day, us against Alzheimer's, the us includes all of us all the time.
It's exactly why we named our company that.
That's great.
Us against Alzheimer's. It's all of us. It's all of us.
Excellent. So something else happened this week. It's the Bold Infrastructure Alzheimer's Act. What is that?
This is an effort to understand the public health possibilities of basically addressing the risk factors for future Alzheimer's by intervening in midlife to deal with cardiometabolic characteristics of your body as well as lifestyle characteristics. So the BOLD infrastructure is to assure that CDC is structured and empowered to basically identify these risk factors and make available to the public information about what you can do in midlife to reduce the risk of your future symptoms of disease.
So what are those things that you can do?
Well, CDC and now the public health literature say there are 14 things you can do. At the top of the list, the most impactful is education. So education levels are highly correlated with whether or not you're at risk for future dementia. After that, it's hearing loss. Then comes exercise and diet and sleep. But there are a wide variety of factors. Don't smoke, don't have excessive alcohol consumption. So there are a wide variety of other factors. So it's a little too much for us to say we're going to adjust 14 things in our life, particularly since education is usually out of our control. But nevertheless, this is what people ought to know, and we'll probably find that hypertension, if you just deal with hypertension and high blood pressure, this is the most impactful lifestyle change you could make starting in midlife.
Wow. And how do you prevent hypertension? What can you do lifestyle-wise to prevent that?
Calm down.
No stress.
No stress.
No stress in life.
Right. There are
exercise.
generic drugs for hypertension.
Yes.
And so this is in fact one of those things which is a relatively inexpensive drug. If taken systematically, starting in midlife, will reduce your risk for dementia. Not going to prevent it necessarily, but it'll reduce your risk of getting dementia.
Another piece of good news, last month, the Senate passed 275 million additional resources for Alzheimer's research. So, what do you think about that? I mean, I'm guessing that's needed. Is that enough?
Well, you're in the business of curing disease, so it's never enough. But when I started the organization in 2010, the level of spending by NIH or investment by NIH in Alzheimer's research was $440 million a year. It's now close to $4 billion a year. And that's through political pressure and advocacy, but it's also because many members of Congress have parents now with the disease.
And some members of Congress might be having it themselves, yeah?
No, of course not. None of them. But what we have found that there's been really deep bipartisan support for additional research investments in Alzheimer's. Republicans and Democrats, but different emphasis here. The Democrats want to make sure that people are cared for at the lower end of the income spectrum, and everybody. Republicans are looking at this as if the United States government is an economic actor. The cost to the United States government and Medicare and Medicaid due to Alzheimer's care is $350 to $400 billion a year. And we were spending like $440 million. And so they were saying, well, this is really stupid. What CEO of a company has a $350 billion cost problem is spending less than $1 billion in trying to solve that problem? And so they have been systematically, over the last 10 years, every year increasing. The Senate raised our line by $275 million, terrific. The House, which is, you know, controlled by the Republicans, much more fiscally constrained, they increased the line item for Alzheimer's by $100 million. So between the House and the Senate, they'll resolve how much more NIH will be given annually for this disease. But it's been bipartisan, bicameral, the support for increased investments in Alzheimer's.
Ahead of World Alzheimer's Day, you've just announced two big initiatives. So tell us about them.
Well, last week here at your offices at CURE, we had a side event for the UN General Assembly called Science Summit. Over 250 people from around the world. And we announced the Global Brain Campaign and a Global Brain Coalition made up of a number of organizations around the world that basically want to take brain health to the top of the global health agenda. We have done such a good job in addressing communicable diseases that now non-communicable diseases are rising to the fore in terms of cost and social impact. And so this global brain campaign is an effort on the part of a wide variety of European, United States, and global organizations to bring brain health to the fore of global health agendas.
And brain health, I'm assuming, includes a lot of different things. Alzheimer's, of course, but many more illnesses of, you know, the brain.
Mental health, young people's mental health, all the stresses and strains, epilepsy and neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, vascular disease, and the like. So yes, it's the total range of brain health impact. It's important to address the brain disorders, which is now the largest cause of deaths and costs in the world, brain disorders. But it's also important to try and develop brain resilience capability. So starting very young, we ought to be developing markers, both biological and social markers, for how to improve brain resilience so that young brains, middle-aged brains, and older brains have greater capacity to resist the stresses and strifes of daily life, which women are a major impact.
Yeah.
The violence against women, there's a major impact on brain health. Discrimination, lack of education, poverty, all these.
Social media.
Social media. So all of these capacities, not everybody is affected adversely by social media. Numbers of people are. So why are some people impacted and not others? Some people have greater brain resilience because of their family structures, because of their education, for a variety of reasons. So identifying those brain resilience factors may give us the ability to basically resist all of those stresses, strains,
That's wonderful, and it's important because I think slowly but surely people are understanding that we not only have to take care of our bodies, but we also have to take care of our mind at the same time.
It's part of our body.
Yeah,
The
it is part
brain,
of
the
our
brain
body,
is the key organ of your body that regulates this whole system, right?
right?
It needs good blood flow,
Yeah.
but that the brain needs it. It needs good power source, which affects women and men differently because of menopause. So there are different effects in both men and women, blacks and whites, Latinos, Asian Americans. All of these differential factors we have to better understand and then develop both resilience capacity as well as the ability to suppress these brain disorders.
So you announced something else last week as well. So tell us about that. What was the second thing you announced?
Well, one of the problems of brain disorders, social and financial, is that we need a whole of society approach to this. This is not just government putting money into research and academic researchers taking that money. We need business involved. So we announced a business coalition on brain health so that we bring business to this. And we heard at your conference last week here at Cure from major business, Shell Oil Company, Georgia Power, Morgan Stanley, how they're dealing with this in the workplace. Because what they're addressing is brain performance and the performance and motivation of their employees. So they're working at the issue of how to assess the both mental health and reduction in stress and strain in the office and how to provide resilience against those stresses and strains. And what's the interesting thing is that social relationships at work, if you have a best friend who you work with, it turns out that it's a huge motivator to go to work and be successful at work. And they're also finding, as a result of that finding, that in fact those who participate in community activities and create larger networks of social relationships have a greater capacity to create those social relationships at work. So they're working on brain health in a different way, in a different context, but business cares a lot about this. One of the fascinating statistics is that they are able to reduce mental health issues at work with a much more generous mental health plan. And by doing that, they reduced their overall healthcare costs by 35%. So they are saving money by doing better by their employees.
And workplace mental health is absolutely important. We're also seeing, so much mental health in the importance of mental health come into play in schools and public systems as well. Something's got to be done about that as well. It's a two-sided issue. Is there anything going on in that arena?
Interestingly, the governor of New York spoke at your conference last week, in which she said basically she's going to try to outlaw cell phones in schools because it is such a disruptive factor in classroom, and it is taking away from the ability of kids to have normal play and social relationships themselves, because at every break or even during class, kids are on the phone rather than either listening for educational purposes or at breaks spending time with their kids and having normal kids activity and creating social relationships with their peers at school. So she is very much in favor of doing that.
So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see this field heading, and where do you see brain health and healthy brains evolving for us as a society?
Well, I think we're going to infuse the whole society with this notion that, in fact, you should be attending to the health of your brain, just like you would normally attend to the health of your heart and other aspects of your body. It'll become something that people think about and focus on. So that will be one thing. Second thing is I think people will get a regular blood checkup every year when they go in to get their annual checkup. They'll get a blood test for Alzheimer's. And in 5 years, I would say within 10 years, we're going to have a vaccine for Alzheimer's. So that's my goal in the next 10 years is to get a vaccine. We have Takeda and J&J and a number of biotechs now testing vaccines. and they're proving to use your own innate immune system to resist these toxic proteins. So I'm hopeful within 10 years we'll have a vaccine.
A vaccine for Alzheimer's. Well, cheers to that, and let's hope we have that one day.
Yes.
Thank you, George,
You're
for
welcome.
joining us.
Oh, thank you, Seema, for doing what you're doing here with Cure.